Hi guys and welcome back. Today I'll be trying out this little gizmo, which is the Shanling M5 Ultra, which I believe has the power to change the mid-fi market. It will cost you 589 bucks, but a few online retailers are already selling it for 559 bucks, so you can get it at a small discount even right now. There are two things which I dislike about this one and many other things which I like about this one, and let's talk about that in the usual fashion. Design-wise, it seems that Shanling is once again changing the look of the devices. We have sharp edges, we have straight lines. It's reminiscent of the latest Astell&Kern units. Obviously, we're talking about a fully CNC machined aluminum unit, so it's carved from a single block of aluminum, but we have glass panels all around, so on its front panel, on its back, on top and below, and maybe it's a really good idea also getting that complimentary leather case, which will cost you just 27 bucks. It's soft on the inside, it's quite thick, and of course it will protect this one from accidental drops, from scratches, so on and so forth. Shanling always cared about the ergonomics of the devices, and this is why we have just 3 buttons and just a volume wheel, which also acts as an on-off button. FiiO, for example, with the M23 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 2 switches. Yeah, so this one is much easier to understand and to play with. And of course, as all the latest DAPs, they dropped that 2.5mm balanced output in favor of a 4.4mm balanced output, which is much sturdier. And we also have the regular 3.5mm jack. Shanling went with a 4.7-inch 720p screen, which is much brighter to that of the FiiO M23 compared to the HiBy R6 Pro 2. Seriously, it's quite a big difference, especially when going outside for a walk on a sunny day. It seems to be an IPS panel, the colors aren't shifting when looking from an angle, and the contrast ratio, I believe, is above average. As for tech inside it, this is where it gets super interesting. So first of all, we do not have an open Android platform like it was the case with the M3 Ultra, M6 Ultra, M7, M9. Instead, choosing a much simpler M-Touch interface that they also have on their M1S digital audio player. It also runs on that not so powerful Ingenic X2000 CPU, but it's more than enough for such a simple M-Touch interface. Of course, you cannot install any third-party apps because we do not have an open Android platform, but this one also offers Tidal integration, including MQA decoder, and it also has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth connectivity. This is mostly an offline music player that relies on micro SD cards that you can insert right here. It supports up to 2 TB cards, but of course you can use Tidal if you please. We have a wide range of playback modes, including USB DAC, DLNA, AirPlay and Bluetooth. Moving on to everything that has to do with audio, the flagship H7 DAC combo of Shanling is based on that widely used TPA6112 chip that you can see basically everywhere. FiiO, many others are using that one. That is a very powerful chip and it doesn't require lots of power, a very beefy power supply implementation, and that's why it found its place into the M5 Ultra, making this one not just the most powerful digital audio player in this price bracket, but basically the most powerful player that Shanling has ever made, except for the M9 Plus, which offers a very similar power output. This one provides 1100 milliwatts or 1.1 watts of power in 32 ohms via that balanced output, making it more powerful than M6 Ultra, M7, M9, and it's basically incredibly powerful for the price and also for this size. The only drawback of this one is the output impedance of its headphone amplifier, sitting at 4.7 ohms on the regular 3.5 jack and 6.6 ohms on the balanced 4.4mm jack. The flagship AK4499EX DAC chip of AKM and also the AK4191 Delta Sigma modulator have been used for maximum performance. And last but not least, it can work as a sender or as a receiver via Bluetooth, and it supports all the fancy codecs, including LDAC and aptX HD. Sound-wise, if you accepted the fact that we no longer have an open Android platform, you cannot install any third-party app, and the only streaming platform available is Tidal, then from this moment onwards I have 2 complaints with this one and plenty other things to hail about this one. So considering the rule of 8, which tells us that the output impedance of your source of your headphone amplifier should not exceed 1/8 of the impedance of your dynamic headphones or IEMs, all of that suggests that you shouldn't use IEMs or dynamic headphones that have a lower impedance than 37.6 ohms via the regular headphone jack and 52.8 ohms via the balanced output. The lowest impedance IEMs that I have at my disposal are HiBy Zeta, which have it at 9 ohms. These are also incredibly efficient. These are ultra sensitive. They have a sensitivity of 112 dB per single milliwatt of power, so these are sniffing the noise very easy, and also they have a very low impedance. And even if the rule of 8 suggested that this should not sound outstanding, I still like the final result, and their punchy nature didn't change that much. These still provided lots of rumble down low, and I didn't feel that the grip over the drivers was lost. Apart from that, M5 Ultra is reigning supreme in terms of dynamics, bass slam, bass punch, everything that has to do with bass. This one will impress a bass head, and dynamics are simply going wild on this one. I recently reviewed the M23 by FiiO, which I personally like a little bit more than their pricier M15S. There is no comparison in terms of dynamics and even power output. This one drives much harder loads. Be them planar headphones, dynamic headphones, not only drives better, but also provides more oomph down low, and you can feel that dynamics are simply going wild with this one. And if you like a fun sound signature, an engaging sound, and this one is definitely that kind of digital audio player. And after listening to this one for about 2 weeks, a very clear picture is forming. You are basically trading that open Android platform and all the benefits that are coming with it for a more engaging and for a more visceral experience sound-wise. Shanling sometimes mentions the noise floor of their devices, but that is not the case with their M5 Ultra, meaning that I'll need to measure it the old-fashioned way with a pair of ultra-sensitive IEMs and with a bunch of tracks. The most sensitive IEMs that I have at my disposal are the HiBy Zeta, which have it at 112 dB per single milliwatt of power. These also have the lowest impedance at 9 ohms, so everything that is noisy, these will be picking up pretty easily, so even portable devices, desktop devices, this is a very easy job to do with the HiBy Zeta. I tried both headphone jacks, I tried all 3 gain settings, low, medium and high, and regardless of the volume, I went even much higher compared to my usual listening volume, which, mind you, is very loud, is 90 dB. I simply couldn't detect any traces of noise with the M5 Ultra. Even if this is one of the most powerful digital audio players out there, the only unit that is more powerful from the entire portfolio is M9 Plus, which, mind you, costs 6 times more. This is basically a dead silent unit, and yes, you can use the most sensitive IEMs out there with this one. I won't talk too much about the power output of the Shanling M5 Ultra because, simply put, this is the second most powerful unit that I have tried on this channel, bested only by the FiiO M17, which provides 1.5 watts versus 1.1 watts on this one. And this is really what differentiates this one from a sea of portable devices that I have tried in the past. It's even more powerful compared to HiBy R8 Mark II and RS8, which costs by 4 to 6 times more. With my usual drivers like Mesa Elite, like Electrica Ripdis, like Kenerton Rockner, I couldn't go much louder than 65 out of 100 steps available, and mind you, I'm listening very loud at around 90 dB, and I had a substantial amount of headroom remaining on tap. The hardest to drive dynamic headphones that I have at my disposal are high impedance Sennheiser HD800S, and that 6.6 ohm output impedance of the M5 Ultra actually worked in favor of the HD800S, pumping a little bit more mid-bass boost and also rolling off the upper treble, so what was ultra linear was now fun and impactful sounding, and I really like the pairing with the HD800S. Hell, even HiFiMan's Svara worked to some degree with this one. This wasn't really a perfect pairing, that is for sure, but it was far from a bad pairing either, and I'll bet that the HE6, Abyss Diana and the Tungstens would sound as good as the Susvara sounded on this little gizmo. I won't talk too much about the dynamics either, because a long comparison in between the Shanling FiiO M23 and HiBy R6 Pro 2 will follow shortly. That will spill all the beans for you, but just as a short spoiler, I can say that M5 Ultra is winning the dynamics game by quite a big margin. Let's focus on something that will not impress that much a snobby audiophile, and that is resolution and transparency. While all three, the Shanling, the FiiO and the HiBy, use the same DAC chip and the same Delta Sigma modulator, they all have very different headphone amplifier circuits, and it seems that the one in the Shanling is not the most resolving and transparent sounding one. It still outplays the Shanling M3 Ultra, which I reviewed a few months ago, and also the FiiO M11S, but it will not provide sharp leading edges, strong contour of the notes, and you'll need to close your eyes to better focus on those small intricacies, on the small details, and you'll need a high-end pair of IEMs to hear all those small nuances, because it's not doing that by default. It needs some extra help, and I do believe that the FiiO M23 and also the HiBy R6 Pro 2 are more impressive in this regard. This is the second weakness that I was talking about. I believe that resolution and transparency are not the strongest point of the M5 Ultra, and if you combine that with a gentle roll-off in the upper treble, then you are getting one of the smoothest sounding players I have experienced in this price bracket. Moving on to frequency response, just picture a slope where the highest peak is the bass and the lowest altitude is the treble, and you'll get the frequency response of the M5 Ultra. The bass is a true rock star. It's powerful, it's raw, it's wild, it cuts deep, and it's really what makes this little gizmo outstanding. This is truly bass head material, and I don't recall having such a great time listening to electronica via a portable unit. The bass truly shines on this one. The mid-range is balanced and it comes in right doses, and since this one is not really a lightning fast sounding unit like FiiO M17 for example is, you have more time to appreciate all the beauty, the long trail of the mid-range, of the vocal cords, of wind instruments, air instruments, string-based instruments. Everything has a slightly longer trail and decay, and I do believe this is exactly how the mid-range should sound. And this is what I would call a sweet mid-range that has the right tone and timbre. The treble is not so defined, it's not the most resolving one, and if you are treble head, maybe you should check some other DAP reviews, because this one doesn't provide lots of sparkle, lots of shimmer, lots of sharpness in the treble. This one is mostly soft, relaxing, smoothing sounding, so if you like listening to hours and hours, this one is very easy to listen to, even with a pair of HiFiMan headphones on some metal tunes while somebody sharpens a katana a feet away from you. The treble is silky smooth and relaxed, and maybe a little bit too relaxed at times, but I'm sure many of you are chasing this kind of sound. Alright guys, you are probably asking yourselves if you should pick the Shanling M5 Ultra the FiiO M23 or maybe the HiBy R6 Pro 2, all of which cost somewhere between 600 and 750 bucks or so. Let's dismiss their looks and build quality and let's focus on everything else. If the feature set is important to you, then the HiBy is winning this game by a substantial amount, not only offering an open Android platform, but by offering more sound tuning options than the rest. You can switch between Class A and Class AB operation for its headphone amplifier section. You can engage some plugins that are working on a hardware level with its FPGA. You can engage those MS-EB settings for a finer tuning of its tonality and frequency response. FiiO M23 is coming next, also having an open Android platform and a parametric EQ option, but without additional sound tuning options. Shanling M5 Ultra takes the last place, as you cannot install third-party apps, and the only streaming service available is Tidal. Moving on to sound performance, right off the bat you can feel that the Shanling offers so much more power on tap. What's 65 out of 100 with a pair of Mesa Elite would equal to around 90 out of 100 with the HiBy and around 105 out of 120 steps available on the M23. The Shanling can drive harder loads and it doesn't require a fast charger to do so. Even on battery power, it outgunned both the M23 and also the HiBy in terms of raw power output. Dynamics-wise, the Shanling provides more oomph down low, the music is snappier, it's harder, the bass region feels heads and shoulders above the rest of the frequency response, and overall I'd say that the Shanling is simply the more fun sounding than the rest. If you need a bass heavy unit, then I believe M5 Ultra sits on the first place, followed by the HiBy in Class A working mode, and then by the FiiO, which is still sounding engaging, but not as raw and impactful as the other two. The HiBy feels somewhere in the middle. It's very good in here, no doubt. I still love it to bits, but it cannot reach the same fun factor as the Shanling. When it comes to resolution, the wheels are turning in favor of the FiiO. I can easier follow a note playing in the background. I can easier appreciate when a higher performance IEM is playing. There is simply more nuance and resolution with this one. I can only presume that the THX AAA circuitry is killing the noise floor and somehow is boosting the perception of cleanliness. Everything feels tidy and cleaned up with a small dose of sharpness thrown in. The next one on this list is without a doubt the HiBy. R6 Pro 2 offers a serious dose of resolution and transparency. You can still follow the trail of a note or musical instrument, but the sounds don't feel as sharp and defined, replaced with more texture and with more saturation. The Shanling sits on the last place, sounding decently clean, but not on the same level as the rest. There is always a perception that something is missing on this one, that the transients don't feel lightning fast, and a very thin veil is sometimes covering the music. The difference isn't as massive as it was the case with Dynamics, but still M5 Ultra is simply less resolving and doesn't offer the best control over the drivers, sounding a bit slower than the rest, albeit punching much harder instead. When it comes to tonality, M5 Ultra is the warmest sounding of the bunch, putting the bass region on a pedestal, followed by the mid-range and then by the treble. The HiBy is coming next. It's still quite warm and sweet, but it's more balanced sounding in this regard, pushing the mid-range forward versus anything else. M23 isn't harsh or bright, but it's more linear than the HiBy and way more linear than the Shanling. Which one will be to your liking? It's really up to you to decide, so please don't ask me which one would I choose, because we might have a different taste and sound. I'm more into Trappist and Weiss beers. A friend of mine cannot live without APA beers, and another one likes only dark stouts, so all of them are flavored, but they all taste very differently. Wrapping up, even if M5 Ultra is not the smartest DAP out there, not the most technical, resolving, or tightly controlled sounding little gizmo, it's without a doubt one of the most impactful and fun sounding little gizmos that I have tried below 1 kilowatt. The sheer bass slam the sweet mid-range, the slight roll-off in the treble, all of that makes it musical and quite different compared to the rest. I know that not everybody likes to analyze their music, but go with the flow and feel the beat, and this is that kind of digital audio player. Only the fact that it's different and its natural sounding makes it desirable, and I wish that Shanling will never change its milk with honey sound signature for a very long time. Okay guys, this is pretty much it. Don't forget to like, to dislike, it's really up to you. Don't forget to be positive, and I'll see you very, very soon.